You're watching Shalom TV, celebrating all things Jewish.
I really want to use this opportunity to really conduct a dialogue with you. And look, the United Nations is not exactly the place where Israel receives a fair hearing. When they established the United Nations in 1945, there were only 52 countries. Today, in the year 2012, you have 193 countries. Now, you would think there was a qualitative, and not just a quantitative addition here. Out of 193 countries, approximately 88 countries are democratic countries. So you have more than 100 countries that are not exactly defined as democratic, and that so. 22 countries of the Arab League, 56 countries of the Organization of Islamic Countries, the non-alignment movement. And I can start telling you that the minute I come into the United Nations, it's like, in Israel there's a TV show, 1 against 100. And before you even start, it's 1 against 100. And there are things that are taking place there that really that are mind-boggling, that people don't really know. For example, the Human Rights Committee, which I always laugh, the Human Rights Committee where Syria and Libya chaired the Human Rights Committee. It's like having Charles Manson run the crime investigation squad of the NYPD. It's like the inmates have taken over the asylum there. But in the Human Rights Council, you have a situation where there's an Article 4 that deals about human rights violations all over the world, Syria, Sudan, Yemen, you name it. And there's an Article 7 that deals about human rights violations only in Israel. Again, Article 4, human rights violation worldwide. Article 7, only for Israel, singling out Israel. Racist, amazing stuff. Now you'd say, hey, that's a no-brainer. People would, of course, vote against that. So the only countries that vote against a resolution like that are the United States of America, Canada, Israel, and the great empire of Palau. The countries like the United Kingdom, France, Germany, they abstain. They abstain. So I asked my colleague, Sir Mark Lyle Grant, from the United Kingdom. Mark, what's this? He said, yeah. And this is what you really get, because in the bottom line of all those stories is that against Israel, there are 21 resolutions, and there's repetitive, and they repeat. And people don't look and zoom out and say, just a second, what the hell is going on here? And this is something that we have to stand up, and that's what I did last week at the Security Council, basically talking about myths and facts. What do you hear? Repetition all the time. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the major conflict in the Middle East. You solve it, you solve everything else. Funny, right? Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Bahrain, Syria, Israel, you have nothing to do with that. If we solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, would one centrifuge in Iran stop spinning? The answer is no. Do we have to solve it because it's in our interest? The answer is yes. But the repetition that you heard for years, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the major. This is, don't want to use undiplomatic language, but it falls under the BS elements. It's absolutely false. And there's a repetition of things which you repeat and repeat and repeat, and they're lies, and they're half-lies, and they're half-truths. And some, at the end of the day, act like that Chinese torture, that drop, and it keeps on going. If you don't call it, it becomes reality. And there's some things that are even funny. But that's what I call by demonizing and delegitimizing Israel. What are they funny? I don't know, a year ago, the mayor of Sharm el-Sheikh stood up and said there was a shark attack against tourists in Sharm el-Sheikh. Shark attack against tourists. The mayor of Sharm el-Sheikh stood up and said the shark that attacked the tourists was a Mossad agent. Serious, I'm giving you the facts. Now, that's all very nice, okay? Funny. But the BBC, and I was then ambassador extraordinary plenipotentiary to the court of St. James, the BBC ran, and I quote, Israeli ambassador denies shark a Mossad agent, end of quote. Really? By the way, a month later, there was a vulture from the Tel Aviv University in a migration flight over to Saudi Arabia. Was caught, also branded as a Mossad agent. I fear that the bird sang in the interrogation. And this is, and the repetition of that, okay? And it receives coverage in the most amazing of media outlets. It's not just military means today. They didn't get us through military means. They tried economic warfare with the Arab boycott. And today, they're going against us in what I would call the toughest battle of them all. And that is on the hearts of minds and people. Dividing us from within Israel and between Israel and the Jewish diaspora from the outside. Because they're going at us in order to take us away from what I would describe as the family of nations. Why? Because they're going out saying Israel is international outlaw. We are doing things on the military side that are oy, 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 oy. And basically, by repetition of things, creating a situation where they're going against the same values that we all cherish, both as Jews and as Israelis. And this is mostly lies. Now, why lies? Because it's not even double standards, it's triple standards. You have standards for democracies, standards for dictatorships, and a special standard for Israel. Special standard that no one can really attain. And this goes against us on the public domain, in the media, and the UN is a wonderful place. So we changed a bit the mode of the code of conduct. It's not just standing up and talking. I came into the UN, to the mission, and really, I have an amazing team, but they were in a different mode, I would say. They were in a listening silence mode. In the different committees at the UN, they listened to everything that everyone bashed Israel. They wrote amazing telegrams back to Jerusalem. So very nice. I said, hey guys, the code of conduct has changed. In every committee, every time when someone goes out against Israel, you react. You don't have a choice. You have to come back. And if you think for some odd reason that it's not the right thing to do, only my personal permission. Only when I tell you it's okay not to react, you don't react. And surprisingly, what do you find out? That our adversaries, especially in the Arab world, they're not used to people coming back at them. Why aren't they used? Because not in contrast to Jewish families, where the wives tell us exactly what to do and criticize us day in and day out. They're not criticized from within, not on the public domain. The children, this is the family. And suddenly, when you poke them, and I love doing that, I have to admit, they lose their composure. And suddenly the Brits and the Germans and the French are shocked to find out that they really lose it. Now you can see the changes. They are already beginning to basically think twice or three times before they stand up in the different committees. Human rights, proliferation, sustainable development. They shove Israel in every place that has nothing to do with politics. But this is something which is a change. And we have to admit, just like in American football, I usually play offense. And you really cannot win in any game, neither in soccer nor in football, if you play defense only. And by playing defense, we're always trying to explain things. And that never works properly, to my mind. And from my point of view, the important things for you is, one, not to be afraid to stand up on things that, for example, always contentious, especially in the Jewish community, settlements. You hear the repetition, settlements are the major hurdle to peace. Major hurdle to peace. Really? I don't think so. I think you can stand, it doesn't make a difference where you stand politically. But the major hurdle to peace is the Palestinians' quest for the right of return. That's a major hurdle to peace. There won't be peace with the Palestinians pursuing the so-called right of return. Why can I say that? Because even the left of the left in Israel, the left of the left where you really hang on the rock of Gibraltar not to fall off, with your fingertips, even they would not sign on to the right of return. Because what are the Palestinians saying? And no one contends that. We want a Palestinian, independent Palestinian state, but we want our people to come to the Jewish state. Again, maybe I didn't get something. We want an independent Palestinian state, but we want our people to come to the Jewish state. What part of the word no don't they understand? The N or the O? There won't be peace. So settlements, major hurdle to peace? No. Might be a thorn in the eye, not constructive. You can see it this way, the other way. There's debate, but the major hurdle, that's not true. Why can I say that it's not true? I was the Director General of Israel's Foreign Service when we disengaged out of Gaza, okay? Took 22 settlements and 4 settlements in the West Bank. What did we get? Rockets from the south, flying day in and day out on 67 lines, green lines. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that if rockets fall on your head, you're allowed to defend yourself. The international community. 12,000 rockets. 0 condemnation from the Security Council. Not one condemnation on rockets flying into Israel. Not one. By the way, lately was one condemnation which I'm very proud of when the Iranians went out both in New Delhi, in Georgia, in Baku, and in Bangkok. There was one condemnation. Security Council needs a consensus, and they did that after 7 years that they didn't do anything. But that's what we have to deal with. And the other issue is direct negotiations. The Palestinians are trying to internationalize the conflict. Abu Mazen is everywhere in the Middle East except in the negotiation table. And he's trying to internationalize the conflict. It won't work. When we did peace with Egypt, it was negotiated directly. It wasn't imposed from the outside. The same thing with Jordan. And we won't be able to do it without sitting in the negotiation table. And all those moves and the so-called support of the international community to the Palestinians doing something unilaterally at the end of the day would not bring peace, but would bring exactly the opposite. When you look back and you think of 64 years, Israel is really an amazing story. An amazing story. An amazing story, of innovation. An amazing story of a young generation. We are electric cars on the cutting edge of technologies. Instead of exporting oranges, we're exporting orange mobile phones. Instead of apples, we're designing Apple computers. We are sending satellites up into space, one of the only 6 countries in the world. Amazing stuff that has been, we're on the verge of really a miracle. 10 Nobel Prize laureates in different fields. And everyone, of course, says, oy vey, education system is horrible, the health system is horrible. That's part of our culture. But in 64 years, amazing stuff. And the most amazing part is the IDF, and I see my children and their friends, and they're amazing, an amazing generation. So you can be very, very proud, and you should be proud, first of all, of being Jewish and being Zionistic and really in believing in what Israel stands for. Because at the end of the day, that's the truth with all the mistakes that we make. And I can tell you in all my experience that we will keep on trying to do everything we can in order to achieve peace. But we will hold the shield of David very, very close to our chest, because only a strong Israel is the guarantee for comprehensive peace in the region. Thank you very, very much.
The ambassador will take questions, so, yes.
Are you satisfied with the support you're getting from the United States and the UN?
Thank you for asking the question, because like always, there's criticism from here and from there. I want to tell you, the American people on both sides of the aisle, and the relationship between the American people and the Israeli people is the biggest strategic asset that the state of Israel has. Without the United States on the front line, we would be in deep. So I cherish that, and I want to thank you. By the way, receiving thanks from an Israeli representative doesn't happen every day, so cherish the moment. Because this is maybe the most important thing that you can do. At the end of the day, the security relationship between Israel and the Palestinian Authority is important for both us and the Palestinians. It's important for them to be able to do it by themselves. And it's always, the issue of we have to be able to come out. They should be able to come in on trying to achieve more security, because at the end of the day, if they are not able to control it, and we will get it in the midst of our cities, this is something that we cannot accept. So it's a mixed baggage, but it's something that we have to try and continue, because at the end of the day, it's their responsibility. It's their responsibility to be able to control. I want to tell you a personal story. I haven't said, when I came to Washington, D.C., I was the Deputy Chief of Mission of our embassy in Washington, D.C. from 1998 to 2002. When I knocked on the doors of the White House, then, 1998, with Major General Amos Gilad, by the way, and talked about the Iran nuclear weapons program, people looked at me and said, Ron, he seems like a logical guy, but like every Israeli, he sees a forest where there are no trees. 1998. Only in 2011, there's a nice Japanese guy called Amano, heading the IAEA, sorry for the acronyms, the International Atomic Energy Agency that sits in Vienna. They are the international body that basically is supposed to monitor what's happening. 98 to 2011, only in 2011 does the international community stand up and says Iran has a nuclear program, weapons program. It's amazing, okay? Again, in analogies, the Iran nuclear weapons program is like that express train from New York to Washington that I took last week, or for anyone, from London to Paris, and that express train goes very fast in direction destination. The international community is like that local train that stops at every station. Sometimes the Chinese get off, the Russians get off, and come in the next station. This local train, if it doesn't accelerate, has no way to stop the Iran nuclear weapons program. And now we're beginning to see more done on international sanctions against Iran, would it make the difference? It has to be really stronger for the Iranian regime to understand that there's a price tag for pursuing that goal. Iranians are amazing negotiators. They're not just carpet makers, they're carpet weavers. They take every red line, they divide it into 5 pink lines, they pass every pink line, and before you say Jack Robinson, they're way beyond the red line. Because it was only a pink line, it doesn't merit a response by the international community. So they've been breaking the red lines all the time. Iran is a combination of an Ayatollah regime with an ideology, with delivery systems, and the icing on the cake are nuclear weapons. Look at the Iran's behavior patterns for everyone who says, "Wow, look at what's going to happen if we do something against Iran. Oil prices, this or that." Very nice, logical, I think analytical very well. Just look at the behavior patterns of Iran without nuclear weapons, okay? Without nuclear weapons. Without nuclear weapons, they're trying to topple the regime in Morocco. That's why they cut diplomatic ties between Morocco and Tehran. Hezbollah, Syria, they're not only going now, as we speak, they're in Damascus as advisors, but they're on the ground on how this amazing ophthalmologist is cutting the vision of his own people every day. A month or 2 months ago, they threatened to close the Straits of Hormuz, okay? The United States and the United Kingdom quietly said, this is a casus belli. If you close the Straits of Hormuz, we're coming after you. Surprise, surprise, they backed down. Why did they back down? Because they perceive this as a credible threat. But when they hear today all options are on the table, they don't really believe that. Because all options they hear also, containment is on the table too. So that's why they continue. In the sense, Iran, take Israel aside for a second. Put Israel aside. Iran, sitting on the potential oil reserves of Western democracies. The Gulfies, talk to the Qataris, the Saudis, the Emirates, they are shivering. Shivering. They are, what would you do if Iran, with nuclear weapons, decides to eat Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi for breakfast? What would you do? So one has to look at the options on how Iran, with nuclear weapons, would change the whole strategic environment. So the bottom line, from my point of view, Iran is maybe the number one threat to the strategic environment that we see that would have ramifications that go way and beyond the Middle East. And it's a nice Sunday, sunny day, and I don't want to continue because you look already worried, and you should be. Please, my lady, can you keep a secret? No, really. No, I'm asking you, can you keep a secret? I can too. No, but the point that I want to say is, for you to really understand, is that there's no one in Israel, in the decision-making, okay, that really does not think that a military option against Iran is not the last possible resort, okay? People don't really understand. It's obvious, You don't really, no one in Israel at the highest level thinks differently about that. But it has to be clear that really all the options are on the table. Why? Because I don't think neither Israel nor anyone else in the world can live with a nuclear Iran, with nuclear weapons. And this is something that, like I said, goes beyond Israel's pay grade. It's important because they do understand when there's a certain price tag being put, and we should continue doing that. Last question, something that we didn't talk about, which is very, very, maybe the most strategic issue, And that's what you see happening in the Arab world. What you see happening in the Arab world is changing of coalitions. You see the Saudis, the Qataris going out against Syria. You see Libya and Syria, who are spoilers outside of the Arab League. I can tell you that the debates in the General Assembly at the UN are very different. Suddenly, you know, the Arab representatives go out against the Syrian representative, and he looks like he's baffled, and he repeats his attack against the Kuwaiti. The Kuwaiti stands up. By the way, at the UN, when you raise the sign of the country, you want to really talk back. And the Kuwaiti usually is afraid to say good morning, stands up against the Syrian and says, after I heard my Syrian colleague, not only do I vote against him, but I co-sponsor a resolution against him. And I sit there, you know, like those two elderly gentlemen in the Muppet Show, Waldorf and Statler, say it's an amazing show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much. I wish you...
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support Shalom TV with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the Shalom TV website homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive on DVD with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.